Okay, so this is Lucas Wanko and myself performing a shadow review of one of the merge requests I'm set to review. Um, and so let's start. So I will start with sharing my screen.
Thanks a lot.
All right, so here's the merge request. And I think this one was like, so I'll go just through, I'll try to dump what I'm thinking because that's what the value of this session is I believe is talking through it. It shouldn't be a crutch of like async communication, right? So whatever we talk about, we should provide it as context here as much as possible if it's feedback
Yep.
for the person. So it's not as like watch the video instead of looking at our comments type of thing.
If I
Okay,
have any type of questions, should I ask during the review or should I ask afterwards?
just
Um,
interrupt me.
okay.
Um, So my first introduction to this was email because I look at that first. Uh, tend to look at that first, and so I saw this. Said the MR is follow up from your suggestion on another MR. Would you mind doing the initial review here to make it sure I understood correctly? Okay, cool. Let's go look at it. Um, Context. And Lucas, I think you've seen me comment like this on one of your MRs too. So this should be more familiar concept here for you because I'm suggesting it here too. So this is hard to see because it's like outside the diff view. So I'm going to go look into the diff to see if it still is attached to see if I can view it in context. Okay, let me see here what's going on.
Mhm.
Okay, we're at the controller layer. It looks like we're doing like a combination of scopes here. Okay, and a bit of logic on top of it. Okay, and my comment was along the lines of, well, she made a comment, and then I said, putting this in the model layer will help us handle this source of truth and test it outside the controller request layer. And so what I meant by that was like, we should probably test the permutations of this, of what it's doing, but testing that in the controller layer or request, it seems like it's of low value, or like we could more optimize our testing by moving this to that area. That in
Mhm.
itself would not be a full reason, I think, for moving it, but in the sense of its business logic, I feel, if you want to like fuzz the lines of what business means. And we should try to probably move those out of controller because then we can reuse them in the future, even if we're not using them now. It'll promote reuse. It'll promote this pattern of putting things at the model layer, maybe not in the model that's attached to the table itself, because that could muddy that business logic in that model, and it doesn't really probably scale that well with our size of GitLab. So um, we put it at the model layer though still and achieve a source of truth. And then we can test all the permutations there. And then at the request layer, we can then test just a few paths of
Mhm.
it and then leave the permutations in full testing to the model layer. And so I showed some examples and I suggested a module to put it in. there's 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 one, and I believe yeah. So people have started to use this pattern too that we started to introduce in just GitLab subscriptions in general. There's a Duo, there's a trials thing there, there's multiple modules there, and I really like it for um, what I just said, but also in the use of finders. So finders, when a finder can do multiple things, right? There's permutations, and I'm like, I don't want to test those permutations at another layer. I should like leave the finder to test those permutations, but I should test my permutation and maybe a negative of it, a few variations of it at the where I use it. So this allows us to test that here at the model layer and not at the other layers of the application that could be in the controller view layers. And so I really like that pattern for that. Or if like it's too lightweight to put in a Finder, you can test the combination of scopes. And sometimes I use Finders for that too, to combine scopes and things like that. So that's what we suggested. Now let's look at what happened here. So I looked around when I suggested this, what was happening. It felt like a generic GitLab subscriptions thing. I couldn't really tie it to Duo or anything like that. It's just tied to the subscription. So I think for this one, and I don't always do this, I'm going to check out the code, the branch. Sometimes if it's lightweight enough or I don't feel I need to dig into it, I don't check out the branch. This one's a pure refactor, so I might at times this might be a case where I don't check out the branch all the time because there's no behavior change. So let's do that. And that right away when I look at this, and I remember when we added this, and came from one of the growth engineers added this to the MRs. So I really like this years ago. However, I feel like people look at it as a requirement, and I look at it as I don't want to see this here. This is purely a refactor. When I look at this, I see this refactor would be no behavior change differences, but I don't even want to see it because it's a signal. And right now it's a noisy signal because it's not really providing me any value. Now it's making me question, should I go check it? When in fact that wasn't here. I don't think it's needed. I don't Let's say I wouldn't do it. I don't mind that it's here, but it takes me a minute to trip on this as a reviewer now. Now I'm tripping and saying, like, is there really no difference? Should I go check that myself manually? Um, I've also seen this being used as if I see this and I don't see a feature spec, I feel like there's a testing gap. Maybe not in this case because there's no change, but in the cases where I've seen this on vertical changes or changes in the UI, I'm like, well, why am I doing this manually? Why isn't there a feature spec? I look for, it's not like one should exist and the other, like this shouldn't exist, but it's like I immediately look for a feature spec to back it up. Manual verification, if it matters, unless it's like a slight UI change in like, styling or something like that, should probably be covered by a test as well. Okay, this is cool. I see no change. Like I said, I wouldn't mind it not being there too. Purchase, blah, blah, blah. I see it's maintenance refactor, so I'm expecting no change. Okay, when I look at this, I look at the changes to see how scary it's going to be. That kind of gives me an idea of my time investment. If I'm in like like a quick cycle where I may have 15 minutes or something like that, I might skip this to later, just do the amount of change and the amount of time I think it's going to take me to look at it. And I don't want to go in and out of looking at a merge request because that takes time to get back into it. And I don't want to spend that, I don't want to spend that cost, have that cost more than once if possible. So my goal here is to merge this. I know I'm being asked as a initial reviewer here, so my goal will be to do an initial review. And I might even, on a refactor like this, if I feel more comfortable about it, I might look into our docs to see if there's an avenue for me to be the only reviewer. And I think there is. Okay, so GitLab subscription. So I'm just going to glance over the files. I saw this earlier. I don't know why this is here. I think it's maybe a bad rebase. So right here, I don't think we can merge this, even if I approve this. So I'm just going to do this. I don't like the word blocking. I think that gives a negative connotation. It could. I think that's I think that'll be, I just need a signal here. That's all. I think she'll see it and say, oh, oops, type of thing. Um, I might even on this one be an easier one. Where's my little suggestion thingy? That's weird. I guess on deletes I can't do that. Okay.
Interesting. If you switch to rich text editing, is it appearing? No, as well. Then it's because of the delete, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird though. I'm sure
Mhm.
there's a good reason. Um, okay, cool. This one too. She'll probably get it from the other one and see this, but I just want to make sure just in case it's not, that I mention it. All right. That's the only ones I spot check there. Okay. Find eligible groups. So at this point, what I'll do is I'll probably open up this so I can kind of look at it side by side. Okay, so this is the module plural, so it doesn't clash with the model name. And I'll just kind of look at these side by side just so I can see here. Here doesn't tell me the diff, here tells me the diff, so I want to focus on what I'm looking at. So I'm just going to look at find eligible namespaces. We changed the name. Good. I kind of like using namespaces over groups when it applies because it implies top level, where groups doesn't necessarily imply that. Okay. We're looking at the user's there, plan ID. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison here to see that what we did was exactly the same. Okay, using present instead of plan ID. I've often wondered, like, before present existed, we always used to do this, and now I feel like, should I always use present? But it's the same thing, Um,
It works like it helps with empty strings and empty arrays, but I think in this case it's probably redundant.
yeah, yeah, it's a styling thing at that point. It's like it's always in my mind though, like what like you could say like this sends more of a signal about what you said. If it's an array, it's kind of telling you a story. It could be an array, or something like that, or a numerable, right? An enumerable, right? And it's not. So
Mm.
you could say like, well, why, that let's not use present, but I don't think I think that's we've accepted that in the Ruby community as either or, one's
Mhm.
just more robust, I guess you could say. Uh, Purchase, calling the same service, passing the same things. Something changed here. Uh, okay, moved it off to here. What is this? So limit 50 here. Candidate eligible namespaces. So we're doing own groups, top level with counts, archive false, but now we've added a limit. Was that described? No. Mm. This is more than a behavior change. Or this is a behavior change now at this point, right? Let's ask that question. Uh, question. Um, that I'm gonna ask her to remove the magic around the word around the number 50, because 50 doesn't mean anything to me.
Yep.
Name what is either with a variable or constant. Uh, okay. I assume this has to do with, I don't know, like like some sort of a pagination concept or limiting concept because we don't have pagination on the page or something like that. I don't know, but it is not a refactor at this point if that stays in, I believe. I may change, we may change and find like, oh, it existed somewhere else when we moved it, Um, but for now, I'll keep it there. And that's what's great about those pending comments, right? I can just put them in there and then delete it or modify it before I actually submit it. And I don't need to go back and forth at this point. So plan ID, I see this, see that. Okay. What?
In the original version of the logic,
Let's go back to that.
we had Safe Navigator.
Where?
The 1994, not a safe navigation, but we checked if payload is exists.
Okay. Success and result payload. Let's go look at that fetch service though. Looks like that was modified too. Uh, okay, so we're looking at payload namespaces first. I'm just stuttering here because now I gotta consume this, which is totally valid, totally fine. I don't mind that eligible namespaces. I like that she used the hash construct, which is driven by our guides and the code for success where it has like a default hash. I think we really need to reinforce that with a doc a little more strongly in our docs other than just showing an example because I hit that multiple times recently. Um, okay, so response success. Are we always guaranteed a payload here? That's what I'm looking for right now, right? Because we removed that safe navigation, as you said.
Mhm.
So success, I gotta look at this in the editor because I gotta expand it. Okay, let's pop this over. Just move right. Okay, I don't care about this method because we're only calling what? New and then execute. Okay, new, cool, execute. What does this do? Okay, let's look at success. It just calls. Okay. The base service does supply the success method as well. I don't know. Sometimes I know I've ignored the base container service or whatever it is. It comes with all those
Mhm.
things too because I would prefer simple instead of cluttered at times.
Mhm.
Let's see here. Service response success payload eligible namespaces. We passed in this. And what you know what I'm thinking here? I'm thinking that I like things to quack the same way.
Mhm.
Like, I feel that a method should always return the same type of an object, and that makes things simpler because then you might have a case in the future where you have to oscillate around like, well, if it comes back like this and treat it like this, or it comes back, as this object, treat it like that, and like,
100%.
yeah. So like, I'm thinking like, namespace dot none. I'm thinking like that. Like if it's always returning an active record relation, that's in a positive case in
I
some
see,
form.
yeah.
So let's look at success here and see what and focus on this. Okay, eligible namespaces, and we're calling it eligible namespaces. That even tells me more. Like we're calling it namespaces, return an array. I really want to see an active record relation at that point, even if it's just the none. Um, is it enough to block it? Block the MR? I don't. This is a pure refactor. So I think we have a little more we're not trying to produce a product,
Mhm.
so I think we have a little more agency to be opinionated here, in a blocking sense, or at least in a conversation sense. I don't want to say blocking. Blocking again, I think is wrong because nothing is blocking. It's more that let's have a discussion before we approve it.
Mhm.
And I'm going to give my viewpoint with context. And if they have a good viewpoint that negates that, then so be it, and we'll move on.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So I see this, and we're saying like payload is always, let's see, look for the word success in here. That'll be an easy thing to get past this one thing. Success. Payload is always guaranteed there. We're not return false unless it's okay, that's eligible. I didn't want to look at that. I think we're going to be kind of okay here. Uh, because we're passing back that success method and it's always guaranteeing this. So I like that. I think we're fine. Would you agree?
Mhm.
Okay. And this,
One quick thought about service responses from my side.
mhm.
I there was a discussion, I think Vitaly from Fulfillment, he raised it, that he is thinking as service responses more as a thing for APIs and not directly for communication between um, Ruby classes. Um,
Perhaps. I would say I generally agree with that. I think services should mutate data. I
mhm,
would say that. I would more than API responses, yet. And then in that sense, API responses are generally mutating data,
mhm,
except when you get into a get case. And in those cases, it should
mhm,
probably maybe be a finder. Um,
mhm.
so I might say that this shouldn't be a service. It should be because it's not mutating data. Let's look at our guides. Uh, abstractions. Da, 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 da. Here we go. Let's look for services. Represent operation coordinates changes between models. Changes impact the state of the application. Okay, let's look at this. What is response success? What are we doing? Plan nil. Where's response coming from here? Is response just a method? Here we go.
It's a finder, kind of.
So it's going out to
Ah,
customer dot.
interesting.
Yeah, I think I know these fetchers historically have that go to customer dot have been services. The skates align. It's not a finder, in the traditional sense, maybe, when I'm thinking about it, because like finders are usually combinations of models, but it doesn't mean it can't be. What is our guides around finders? Typically, that means not always. I think maybe it could be a finder. You can make a case for that. It's not mutating data, so
Mm.
right, but I mean that isn't the exact definition of that either. Representing operations that coordinate changes between models. Changes impact the state of the application. Don't know what that means. Does that mean the service does that, changes the application if that's true, or does it mean like it serves something that does? I would,
Actually,
yeah,
the next point, number one.
there we go.
Mm.
There's a direct guide. So let's do this. It's not going to be blocking on this because it's totally unrelated and a much bigger change. But let's do this. Uh, Mm, with our docs. Not sure this should be a service. Perhaps in a follow-up, we could consider converting this to a finder. You know what's going to happen here, though, and on a roulette is any finder gets a database review, and that's going to be annoying because now you're going to feel the pull not to make this that because
Oh,
you know what I mean, because of the review. So because of the review and the cycle time. So we got to resist that urge, I would say, and maybe we need a better mousetrap for our reviewer roulette or our code owner's guide, right? Instead of verging away from that, I think that construct, or
mm,
create some sort of like non-databasey thing construct. Um,
mhm,
okay, so and then I'm going to quote this. Specifically, this applies here. No. Okay. Not a question. Okay. Cool. That satisfies that thinking. You see we're going all across off the track, on other changes, but it like starts in one area. Okay. So I think that safe navigation is good, and we go back to comparing these apples to apples. Result.payload. Now my question is, can we make this result come back? Can we just do this? Right? Why do we care? Like, can we say that the service layer, and now we're going to get into like, well, if you're going to change it to a finder, but this kind of verges into like, if we convert it to a finder, then we can just call the finder and it always returns an active record relation. And so maybe this verges into that, and like we get to a place where we don't even need the payload because we're in a finder. And in the finder, I think our rules say uh, finders execute should return an active record relation. Now we start feeling like, I think about what we were talking about with enumerable, how like now that fits with a finder too. Should we talk about that here? Let's see. I guess we got to look at like how many times is exit without success, I guess, and see if like it's feasible to modify it that as well for this or not. So error
mhm.
can have a payload like this. So like is error ever called here without a payload? It is here. I think it's totally acceptable here to return this as a, what is this? Namespaces, right? That's returning
A hash with namespaces. Ah, okay, yeah, yes. Mhm.
something like that, right? And that'll give us a relation. What was doing here? What was this change? I don't think I'm going to request, I'm not going to give the a full example here. I think it's pretty I'll just make this one example of one that's actually a diff. I don't think this one's in the diff, right? But I'll put it somewhere in one of these where it suggests like we should, I mean, it'd be great if we just return back none. But what is happening here? What is return false going on here? That 21? Is that in our eligible thing? Uh, first dot present. Um, what do we say?
That's a change, isn't it?
Yeah, but does it do the same thing? This is like, I guess, payload namespaces false unless success, so we're in a false case. Did we change how error came back here or something? Too? Because now it's like it was always getting a payload, now it's not. Maybe for, I mean, first, I don't,
So
we
one
do
is
is,
checking if there's one trophy element.
gotcha. So right here is where the change was. I like the converting to the hash, but when you convert to the hash, you had to change how she did this logic here. Then because now it's a key in the hash instead of passing back the entire, assuming payload is just one thing with an enumerable in it, basically. Or not enumerable, sorry, array, because enumerable is a hash too. Um, and now we're safeguarding it because sometimes error does not return that. So now we're getting to things like it's not quacking the same way. And it goes more towards like, there's a lot to unravel here because we could like get in a finder and then we don't even need this result stuff, right? It's just we're like it feels like in the service layer here, we're not mutating data. So we're having to the payload think about namespace dot none, right? Otherwise, it gives back that. And so we're having to hack around that. But if we use a finder, then we don't need that layer of success here of result here. Now we do call a service, I believe, in here to call the client, right? Not a service, but that, right? Mm, okay. Um,
My question would be, what happens if we have multiple namespaces? In the previous version of the code, we would have a trophy condition, but now there needs to be exactly one. Isn't it like this?
yeah. Was that always the case though? I mean, like just because we changed it, did the thing only return one to begin with? So first dot present, you're right. So now this says like you got to also just be one,
Hmm.
like you said. But is that the same here? No, it's not. Mm, okay, yeah, so that's a behavior change or could be, right?
Hmm.
Let's look at what this does. Response filter. Does this return multiple? Oh, good, a GraphQL thing. Always love those. Um, namespace data, namespaces dot map. Okay. Response data. Nothing here that tells me it should be just one, just by glancing at it. I kind of feel like there could be more than one, right? Now you kind of verge into, should I be asking these questions or should we just say, hey, I see this change and ask for explanation,
Hmm.
right? Because we're like having to like guard our time a little bit.
Totally.
And I gotta stop this in 9 minutes. Um, okay. I'll give it like a 2 minute look at this and see if I can discern from it. Yeah, see, there's multiple. Okay. So that's enough to ask a question. I think that's pretty clear, right? Okay. That changes, like even looking at this. I mean, this looks like same to me. It's just the structure of the payload that changed. Um, okay, eligible namespaces. Right away when I look at this, my brain hiccups. Like, I don't know what that is. Um, uh, Luck? Was Pluck even used here? I think maybe in a prior iteration Pluck was used. Let's look. Uh, Usually my IDE will light up if there's like non-necessary Rubocop disabling. Let's do this and see if it lights up too. Uh, okay.
Oh,
Got it. So I was reading that wrong. It's telling us to use Pluck. And what was the reason? Uh,
because it's shorter.
the reason here is not right. Pluck is also on enumerable as well. It's not just an active record thing. So
The cop is raising here false positive
I don't know
because
about
we
false
could,
positive. It's more saying use pluck, and the interpretation of why we don't need to use it is not correct.
if we would use it, then Rubocop would complain, although it should
I
only
would complain in
complain.
the other direction, right?
Yeah,
So it's saying use this, right? That's what it's saying. And now we got the other one to light up. Right? It's like, and this one's a false positive, meaning like um it's
yeah,
not smart enough to know this is like pluck off of enumerable, not pluck off of active record.
yeah. Yes, it is.
So uh now you get into bike shedding of like should you use one or the other. Now we got Rubicops fighting each other. We did enable this um cop, right, to say like use pluck. So it seems like we have a preference, but now they're going to be fighting each other. Um Map data. Like, do we even need map like that verbose of a map? Could this be written as map and ID? Uh, probably not, right? It's probably pluck. I always forget like these little things. And I'm not sure
Would be nice.
which is faster. Like looking it
Yeah,
up in docs or asking AI.
yeah, yeah.
Is it good from the actually?
Yeah, with methods, it would work.
Yep. It's not a method. Okay. How about with pluck? I think pluck is this. Uh, isn't pluck also available on regular arrays? It's just this thing where it's going to tell me I'm right. After it just told me I was wrong. There we go.
There's
There it is. I'm gonna make this a non-blocking comment, but I'm kind of torn here because I think it should be blocking because the comment's wrong, and I don't want to send a wrong signal. But does it mean anything? No. This is where I might check myself to say would this be the only blocking comment on the merge request?
yeah.
And Alexa off. I gotta go into. Um, and I don't think it isn't, right? So I feel more okay making this a blocking comment too, to around the, I guess nitpick around how that's actually not quite correct. Um, yeah. So, okay, I will continue this